This is Dana Samuelson with the American Gold Exchange. You're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast with Mike Cavagioni.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavagioni, and today's super amazing guest is Jason VanDevere. I'm super excited to talk with you today, Jason. We talked a little bit before I hit record. You've got some solid stuff going on, and I am really excited to get into it and learn more about you and what you do. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Hey, and speaking of getting to know you and learn about what you do, that's the way I like to start these podcast episodes off anyway. So that'll be my first question. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, share your story, and just tell us, who is Jason VanDevere?
Yeah. So a little about me. I've got an e-commerce business called Goal Crazy. I designed a planner about 5 years ago, and I started selling them online, and I've been blessed that it's done well. And then with that, I have some coaching programs where I work with people, and on the side, I have rental properties. So I know you guys talk a lot about different side hustles and side income. So I've grown them up to 34 apartments, which, for lots of people, that's really small. For some, that might sound crazy, but it's just been a fun ride getting there. But a little bit about me that probably triggered my entrepreneurial journey. So I don't know how long of an answer you're looking for here, but I'll give you quite a bit to work with.
Sounds good.
So my dad is a car dealer in our city, Akron, Ohio. So if you ever come here, you'll see our last name, VanDevere, all over, right? VanDevere Chevy, VanDevere Cadillac, VanDevere Buick. They've got a handful of dealerships. So for my whole life, it was just assumed I would go into the family business and take over the dealership. And after college, that's what I was doing for a while. I was working there, and the program he'd put me on was I had to work about 6 months or maybe even a couple of years in every department until I learned the whole business. And then I could go on to become a car dealer. And somewhere in there, I just realized it wasn't what my passion was. I always wanted to start a business, and I thought that maybe going into the family business would fill that void because it would lead to business ownership, but it just wasn't. And I got all excited about these planners it's a planner idea that I had an idea for. And one of the big reasons why I have the word crazy in the title of it is when I told people I was going to turn down the opportunity to become a car dealer, to go sell paper products, a planner, everyone told me it was a completely crazy idea, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made, following my dreams. And I started the planner business, started investing in real estate on the side. And now I've just been able to create the life that I wanted, which has been really fulfilling.
That's awesome. That is super cool. I love hearing stories like that where there's expectations, where everyone around you is looking at you to do or go a certain way, and you say, no, I want to do what I want to do, and I want to do it my way, which is what you did, which is awesome. And actually, I want to dive into that a little bit and ask, obviously having a family business, right? You've been exposed to entrepreneurship from the start, right? So you've always had that in front of you. But what was it that made you decide that you wanted to go out on your own and do your own thing instead of just following in line to the family business? What was that thing that kind of just snapped for you and said, no, I think I want to go this direction?
So I think if I ever met someone who started a business, I always found that really interesting. Or if you ever heard a speaker come and they'll talk about, especially like the grind phase of getting their business started, it was like, that's a challenge I want to take on. It seemed like the ultimate life challenge was to start a business. So I think I had that, but probably then when I realized it wasn't going to be the car business for me is one, I didn't have to start that. But I've got rental properties and I started investing, and I had I bought a 4-unit building before I left the dealership. And if I ever meet somebody who has rental properties, I love to talk to them about rental properties. I imagine you might be a similar way. I can talk to them for hours about it. However, if I meet somebody else who works in the car industry, it's, look, I know how to talk about it because I worked there, but it doesn't fire me up at all. It was just this grind. And I think I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. But then I think it started to turn into, I should go become a car dealer. I should make a whole bunch of money. And after I make that, then I'll leave the business and then go do what I want. And for a little while, that might have set me at ease. Okay, I'm still on the path to creating the life that I want. But then it started to weigh on me. Do I really want to wait 10 years or 20 years to start living the life I want? And it was like, I feel like I can do this. I'm reading all these books about people who have started businesses. I might as well just give it a try. I don't know. And I definitely wasn't, I enjoyed working at the dealership, but I wasn't eternally happy. So I don't know if there was like a final thing that really kicked me out, but it was probably just doing the deep work of figuring out that's not where I wanted to be for the next 20 years or for the rest of my life.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So you had this idea to create a planner. And I'm curious about that because I love a good planner, right? I like to be very organized. My calendar is insane. If you ever took a look at what it looks like with all the things going on, it is very hard to stay on track and do everything I got to do every day with having my hands in so many different things, right? Which is why I outsource a lot of work, which is fantastic. But planners are always near and dear to my heart. But what was it that made you decide that a planner was the right thing for you to start a business?
So I liked planners, but I felt like I couldn't find the right one, right? I don't know if you're a planner person who's tried dozens of them.
Oh my God.
Right. And I was cruising through them and it was like all of them had the right keywords, right? This is exactly what I'm looking for. But then it would just fall short. It's okay. I'm learning about all these things from the personal development books or from conferences I'm going to, from mentors I had. And I just wanted to have a planner that put it all into a system. If I follow this system, I'm going to hit my goals, right? And I felt like I couldn't find the planner, but I more so felt like nobody had done the necessary groundwork to really create that strategy. So I think I wanted a tool for myself. I was excited about it. I wanted to get into the e-commerce space, and that was just a natural passion of mine, which probably if you're looking to get into the e-commerce space, none of the metrics added up as this is a good opportunity. There is high demand, but there's tons of competition. The price points, there's some that are high, but most of them are super low. But it was just something that I wanted to do. So I think for me, it was a tool I wanted, but then also if I built the system, I knew I would learn a lot throughout the process of making the system. So when I left my job, I spent over 7 months just interviewing people, like going out to lunch, coffees with successful people that I knew. And I could rely on our families very well connected in the area. I could get connected with a lot of people, which really helped. And it was just figuring out what are these people doing that's helping them accomplish so much. And I'd put it into a design. And then I did 7 focus groups where I took people through there. And it was like eventually we just found something that worked. It was just consistently giving people results. And I think there's lots of people who start an e-commerce business and I feel like they go seek out some random product that will just sell. And look, if that's worked, there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like for me, starting the business was way harder than I thought. If I didn't have the fire inside of me to say, I want to do this, I would have definitely given up. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been that hard if I would have just found a low competition, high demand product. But
no, so Jason, I have done that. I've had an e-commerce business where I found a product that I like rallied behind and said, yeah, this is going to be it.
yeah.
And I mean, it is still really tough. That's actually the first website I ever built and flipped. As I built I'll tell you a little bit about this one, right? I wrote a blog post about this 4 or 5 years ago when I did this, but I built a website and an e-commerce store based around a pet pooper scooper, like a dog poop scooper.
Wow.
And the reason why, because I have, a dog, and every time they went in the yard, and you always got to get the bags and pick it up. And what if there was one that you could just put the bag on it and then grab it, and then it closes the bag, and then you just take it and throw it out. And now you don't have to worry about in case something gets out somewhere and whatever. And then I find this product and no one is selling it. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here. So I built a whole thing around it.
So you
And-
invented this. It's not like you could just go.
No, the product was already there.
Oh, it was there.
It
Okay.
just, there was
Was
no
it
website
capitalized on
selling
yet?
it, right?
Yeah.
It was just, I got it directly from the wholesaler. And so I built this website around it. And then I wound up selling that website to somebody who now their website's still going and they sell other pet products. But it was all based around this one product that I found and thought that would be neat because it was something I needed. And yeah, but the ground up building process was very difficult, like having to work out the deals too with the supplier to make sure that I can get enough product shipped to the US because it wasn't made here. So I had to get enough shipped here so that I can ship out in time so people aren't waiting 30 to 45 days to get the things. And you have to have some capital in the background to make that happen.
Yeah, it's not
So-
wholesale or drop shipping, right? It's actually buying
So a
that
lot of
product.
times people think, oh yeah, it's whatever, I'll buy it as people order it. And no, it's not
Yeah.
the same as drop shipping. So that's a great point. So you probably had to do something similar. You had to get the planner built and you had to front all that money up. So you get into something like this, you put a lot of risk out there. You're putting all of your eggs into this basket and you're like, man, I hope I don't drop this basket.
Yeah.
If I do, that would be awful because I might lose 1, 2, or all of these eggs. So you take a risk and you did that. And it looks like it worked out pretty good. But one of the things I want to point out here, though, Jason, because this is what sticks out to me, is you started this based off of something you needed, right? So you found a need and you took that need and you capitalized on it. So this was something you wanted for yourself, but also felt that it would be a good product for other people. And I feel like a lot of times people will try to get onto like a product that's trending or something that they think they can make a quick buck on. When realistically, if it's something that you think you might need in your life, it might work out a little bit better for you on the back end. Just my humble opinion on that. But anyway, I'm talking too much.
Oh,
here.
I
I'm
know. I
interviewing you.
completely
need
agree
you to
with.
talk. So I want to ask you, Jason, as you were doing your search, you were researching and trying to find these planners, and you said they had the right keywords and they would all come up just a little short. How did you like find or fine tune the back end to create the completed product that you were hoping to create? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think probably one of the biggest differences with my planner is, and hopefully this answers your question here, is before the planner section actually starts, it starts with maybe there's 40 pages of it's called the life crash course, where somebody does first like a self audit of where they're at in their life right now. And they fully analyze themselves in all the different areas of life and health, financial, travel, all the different areas. And then they set goals, long-term goals, short-term goals. But I think why that helps set people up is then they narrow this down, their long-term goals, they break it down to their most impactful goal, ultimately to what are the habits they need to be doing every single day that's going to get them to their short-term goals, that's going to get them to their long-term goals. But I think one of the reasons why so many people get what I'm going to call addicted to planners is I think it's easier for people to just go try and buy another planner to solve all their problems, right? It's like we live in this infinite world where there's an infinite number of things you can do with your time, right? And we're finite. We don't have an infinite amount of time to give. So if you try to, you're going to keep hopping from planner to planner, right? I want to fit all of this into my finite life, which isn't going to happen. And I think it's easier for people to buy another planner than for them to do the deep work to figure out, what do I really want to do with my life, right? Because once you know the answer to that question, you can say no to all the other stuff, right? Or it's here's the 1, 2, 3 things I want to focus on and just say no to the rest. So I think what makes my planner work is I do have a biased opinion towards my planner layouts and this format that helps hold you accountable. You make a daily scorecard, but one of the biggest things is it really helps people clarify what they want to do with their life and what's most important to be focusing on now. Because if you don't have clarity, you will never have enough time, right? If you don't have clarity on what you want to do, it's like your planner, even if it's perfect, it's only going to work to the degree that you're organized about putting things in there, right? And if you don't know what you want to do with your life, you're going to fill it up because you don't have clarity. So hopefully that answers your question. Maybe I gave you more than you needed there.
It does actually provides a lot of clarity to the question that I had up. Actually, I wrote down a couple things that as you were talking, because you make a very good point. We are finite. We don't have infinite time. And it's important that we spend that time doing things that are worth doing, and two, that we want to do, that adds value to our lives and fills those life buckets. Because you could sit here and flounder all day with how busy things can be. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how busy I am with my schedule and with the way things are, which is why it's very important that I have good time management and I block off to do certain things. Otherwise, there'll be things in my life that just pass by. Like, you ever see that movie Click, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like Adam Sandler hitting the fast forward button, and all next thing I know, I'm an old man, and what happened with my life?
Yeah.
So it's very important that you take the time to do those things in your life that provide value to you and your family and whatever it is that you specifically want to do in life. The other thing that you had mentioned is that it's very hard for people to say no sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And there's power in that word, and not in a negative connotation, but there's power in just the word no.
Yeah.
Because being able to say no, it gives you, actually, when I was a recruiter, actually, no, I won't even say it. That's probably not appropriate for this episode. But anyway, but there's power in the word no, because it's going to create that opportunity for you. And I look at the word or the letter O in the word no as opportunity. Because a lot of times we'll get caught up in something and somebody might be pitching us an idea, or you're just having a conversation that maybe you don't want to have, and it could just go on and on. And, if you realize that if you would have just said no, you would have gotten all that time back.
Yep.
So there is power in that. And we as people need to know when we should say no. So
Yeah.
I think having,
And if you don't have clear goals, you don't know
Yeah.
when. It's, oh, I might as well say yes to this. Yeah.
yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about goals and how your planner helps people accomplish their goals, right? Because you said the first 40 pages was like this life crash course, right? So helping people figure out what it is they want to do with their life, which is important because a lot of times people don't know what they want to do with their life. They just go with the motion. And again, it's like that movie Click. It's, you just fast forward to like, where'd all the time go? Yeah. I didn't do the things I wanted to do. And at the end of our life, that's it. And you get this one opportunity. So let's talk about like goal setting a little bit. What is it that your planner does that helps people open their eyes to say, okay, here's what I want to accomplish. Here's how I want to set my goals. Like, how does your planner organize that for somebody?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that also makes my process for goals different is it starts with dreams. And I think of dreams as like this is the infinite number of things that I want, and I'm going to select my dreams and turn them to goals. But I think it starts with helping people dream and create a dream list. But I think, so I do coaching, right? And I feel like so many of my clients, their problems would be solved if they would just take time every single day to dream. Because if you stop dreaming about your life, then you stop having meaningful goals, right? You can set goals without dreams, but they're not going to be meaningful. And if you don't have meaningful goals, people end up going into this, what I call survival mode, right? Where they're just trying to stay afloat. They're doing all the things they quote unquote should be doing or need to be doing, but they're not doing what they want because they haven't given themselves the time to actually think about what they want. And when you start going after what you want in your life, it lights a fire inside of you, right? Like I told you how starting my planner business was way harder than I thought it would be, but I wanted to do it, right? It was like, invited the challenge in. I sought it out because I wanted it. And yeah, I think so. It helps people dream because ultimately dreams I think them as the source, right? Like our dreams, they define our life. If I dream about getting drunk with my friends, I'll probably look like that, right? If I dream about doing cool stuff on a snowboard, I'll probably look like that. Or if I dream about real estate or providing for my family in these certain ways, like that's what my life is going to look like. So I'm going to tell you first dreaming, but then we're going to break that down into long-term goals, short-term goals. But the planner focuses on a 90-day time frame. And I help them then identify their most impactful goal for that quarter. And I think that is so powerful. Sometimes I'll sit down with a client and it's like, hey, do you know what's the most important to do right now? And they'll list out like 9 things, right? And they'll be like, I've been trying to do these 9 things for 2 years. And it's okay. The reason you haven't done one of them is because you created 8 obstacles in the way of you getting one done, right? We need to figure out what's the most important and then say no, or just simply not now to the others. So I think that's some of the main things that might give somebody a different perspective with goals going through my process.
Sure. Yeah. Not now. That's also a great one too. And that's a great point, Jason, because I have found myself in that predicament several times where it's okay, I'm trying to accomplish and I can't figure out why I only got A and B done in a whole year when all these other things weren't as bad. The problem is I'm trying to do everything all at once instead of stopping and focusing on one thing at a time, which is why it's important to set your goals and have a specific order that you do them in. And now I do that, right? So now I put time on my schedule for each specific thing that I want to accomplish for that day, right? Like I know. And then when that time is up, if I didn't finish what I needed to finish, oh, I'll have to reschedule some more time at another time and then focus on the next thing. Now, yours is probably a little bit different because it sounds like you're like, hey, no, let's get this done before we move to the next thing. But either way, whatever works for that individual. But I don't know. I like the way that your planner is sounding. I'm probably going to have to go buy one and check it out because it sounds pretty dope. But yeah, you bring up some very important points about, again, like I said, the power of no, but also not now. And let's figure out how to prioritize things in life that you're trying to accomplish to get these goals done. Okay, great. Now, with you creating this e-commerce business, right? Obviously, you had a lot of goals there yourself and aspirations for what you wanted to do, which you did, right? You started your business, you created this planner, now you have a coaching business and things are going great. And then you also bought some real estate, right? So you said 34 units right now that you have. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because a lot of times people don't realize the success that you have in one area can translate into other areas like you're having here, where you're able to purchase rental properties to create more passive income for yourself. So what did that look like? Did you start investing in real estate before you created the planner? Or did you have your success there first and say, okay, now it's time to, start putting my money in other areas?
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Yeah. So when I was at the dealership, I really was drawn to the idea of real estate. So I bought a 4-unit apartment building and I did that. So when I graduated from college, I lived at my parents' house for about a year. And then I moved into one of the apartments in my 4-unit quadplex. So I did the whole house hacking thing, right? Live in one, rent out the other 3. And I can't say I was so successful with that. I wanted to go start a business teaching people to set goals. But that provided me a lot of stability, I felt like, to leave my job. Because I could leave my job at the time when I'm single, I had no kids. I didn't really have many responsibilities. I lived there and I was probably able to live there for free and cash flow, let's say $900 a month off the place. That was more money than I needed. I wasn't living a fancy lifestyle, right? I had to change my lifestyle when I left the dealership. But if I wanted to live on noodles and peanut butter and eat lots of meals at my parents' house, like I could survive as long as I needed to get my business started. So I think that really helped. But then I knew real estate was something I wanted to continue to grow, especially I'm married. We have 2 kids. My wife is pregnant again and she doesn't work.
Congratulations.
But thank you. So I wanted to be able to provide for them, right? Like most husbands do. But I think with my e-commerce business, I've been really blessed that it's done well. But because I know how much effort it was to start it, I think it's like, if something ever happened to me, I couldn't expect my wife to sell planners online and provide for our family.
Sure.
Or if it ever went bad, I wouldn't want to have to go get a job. I could if I needed to, but it was like by getting real estate, I feel like it really provided for the lifestyle I wanted for my family of we'll have enough money to pay our bills, whether my planner business is doing great or not. And if something ever happened to me, my wife would have to hire a management company. I wouldn't expect her to manage them on her own, but she could hire a management company and have income from those to provide for our kids. So I think it was maybe like a life insurance strategy,
Sure.
but real estate is just so tried and true versus my planners. Like it's been a huge blessing, great opportunity right now, but it's a riskier venture than real estate. So it's taking things from this risky venture, investing them into something that's a little more tried and true and give us the financial stability we wanted. And I've loved the journey of real estate is also it.
Since we're talking real estate, I'll use a real estate reference here because it sounds like the way you set things up is you laid that solid foundation first. And you said, okay, cool. I'm going to get these properties, going to bring income in. So worst case scenario, we have something coming in to pay the bills, make sure the family's taken care of. And now my business, this is where I can have some fun, take a little risk and do what I want to do. And if that tanks, we still have income from real estate, right? And you still have that backup, which I think is extremely powerful. I do the fact that you went that route first, because a lot of times people say, I'm going to start my business, be successful, and then I'm going to go buy real estate. You did it in a very solid and strong way by doing. I It's almost like how to set goals and plans or something. Like a
And I would say
planner.
like one of the things I have been blessed with. So I left the family business, but I would
Yeah,
say my dad is still a huge mentor in my life
sure.
and he's smart. So that helps, but also similar to people listening to your podcast, reading books, finding mentors. One of, I feel like the greatest piece of advice somebody gave me was, look, Jason, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So if you can find somebody who's already done what you want to do, just ask them how they did it. And boom,
Yeah.
there's your straight line to get you there. And I feel like when I started to read self-help books and find people who could help me and get confidence just asking people, hey, can you get a coffee with me? Or hey, can I ask you some questions? It just opened up my eyes. So there's so much I can do with my life because other people figured out how to do it and I can ask them how, right?
Yep.
It might make it sound like I'm a genius. And right, it always looks clear when you're looking backwards. Oh, wow, that all worked out perfectly. But it was stumbly, very stumbly. But I would say so much of the credit came to I was asked people for help and they were very willing to give me advice to help me make good decisions.
Yeah. And another thing that is powerful, networking and having
Yeah.
mentors and coaches, just very powerful. The way I look at things too is I'm a firm believer in having a mentor. And if you need to hire a coach, hiring a coach, because the money that you will spend on a coach will save you boatloads of money in the future. And I can tell you from experience in the real estate side that I have made mistakes that if I would have had the right person that had my back to say, hey, Mike, don't do that, I would have saved a lot more money than I would have just paying to have a coach help me with those things. So I think that's very important. So, Jason, obviously, you've gone about this the right way, and you've obviously been very blessed with mentors in your life that have helped you, help guide you in that way. And I really appreciate the fact that you give credit to that. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, I did this all on my own. Realistically, there's not a lot of people that are successful on their own. It takes a team. A rising tide lifts all ships. I'm a firm believer in that. So I definitely appreciate that. Now, I want to ask you something else. This is like relatable to me as well, because it looks like you have your hands in a bunch of different pots like I do. You have your businesses, you have your real estate, you have a family, all these things that take time away. So, how do you balance your life as an entrepreneur and your life as a husband and father with a family? How do you get that really good work-life balance?
So I think this might come back to the goal setting
And just so you
strategy.
know, I'm expecting greatness here
I'm
with this
gonna
answer. Since you created this planner and
I'm gonna try
I'm
for it.
expecting you to go crazy right now.
Let's do it. So I think for me, when I'm setting my goals, I think the trap can be when you're setting goals is just focus on the goals for your business. But it's really your business should be the means, not the end, right? The end is what's the lifestyle that I want. And if I can focus on that, this is the lifestyle I want. This is what I want to provide for my family. This is what I want to provide for my kids, how many hours I want it to take. This is the fun type of things I want to be doing with my day to day. And then how is my business going to be the vehicle, the means to make that happen? And, but that still goes back to the dreams, right? And it's, I got to tap into the source of what do I really want? And if you don't let yourself ask yourself that question, or you don't simply give yourself time to ask yourself that question, then typically people just focus on their career and unfortunately, or fortunately, they succeed and it becomes their life, right?
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that answer. I expected nothing less. No,
I'm
that's
glad.
great. That is so important and super truthful. And I appreciate that. What is it that you want your life to be? That is a question you need to ask yourself first. And then your business or your real estate, whatever it is that you have that you are doing is your vehicle to get you there. And you have to find the right thing that fits you. If you find a vehicle and you find yourself broken down on the side of the road all the time, that might not be the best vehicle for you to use to get to that end that you're looking for. So again, I love metaphors and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So that's why I like the way that you explain it, because it is a journey, right? Your life is a long road trip. Let's say you're going from the East Coast to the West Coast, right? A lot can happen on that trip.
Mhm.
You could hit a nail, you could hit a deer. So many things that can happen. There's
Yeah.
always going to be obstacles, but the end thing is that final destination. Where is it that you're trying to go? And how can you, one, avoid or work around the obstacles that get in your way? And that's going to be through solid planning and goal
Mhm.
setting, and setting yourself up that way. I think that's super important. So I just want to say I really appreciate your answer, because having a good work-life balance is probably the most important thing for somebody that is trying to have that lifestyle that they're looking for. Not so much like laid back, but you want to be able to be there for your family and not get lost in the sauce trying to make money so you can be with your family. You're going to be stuck doing work all the time. So I really
you
appreciate
need to force it. You need to like
you do.
intentionally force it, because especially like I love my work, and which is good, but I have to force myself to say no, because otherwise it could overtake your life. And then it's, what am I actually doing this for? It's that's
Loving
not
your
what I'm
work can be dangerous, right? This is something that I say all the time, and I feel like sometimes it bites me in the rear end when I say it, but it's true. But if you love what you do, can you really consider it work? And if you love what you do and you don't consider it work because you really enjoy it, what else is it taking away from, because you get so much enjoyment out of that? And that's something I don't think I've ever asked myself until today. Now that I think about it, it's wow, like I love doing the podcast. I love doing everything I'm doing, but here I am right now on a Saturday doing this, having this conversation with you. What does this take away from? Where do I make up for that? So that's the way I'm looking at it, is okay, I'm taking some time away on a Saturday, but where am I going to fill that cup? Where am I going to fill that bucket elsewhere? And that's why my plan and my calendar is so important to me. So actually, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on, especially having your own plan or everything, what are your thoughts on like vision boards for like long-term goals?
I think
Have you
vision
ever used
boards,
one, or
I have. I think for me,
like your planner better?
I think what's even more powerful, so I take time. One of the things I like really try and drill into people who work with me is I really
Yeah.
push, I call it daily dreaming, which
Okay.
this is going to sound loopy, but I'll put a timer on for 10 minutes, turn on some music that I like, and I'll just pace around and dream about the life that I want. And I think like the vision board is good, but I think sometimes people, it's almost like this check, did that.
Sure.
But, and I think it changes so much. Like I need to be taking time. I think that'd be good if people were doing that on a monthly basis of truly analyzing their vision board, because otherwise you slap something up there, you look at it. For me, it became a habit, and it's, shoot, I don't even want that stuff anymore. And it's
That
because,
hurts.
so
That hurts because as you say that, I'm
touching
looking
a
over at
wound.
mine. I'm looking
Yeah.
at it right now, and I'm just like, you know what? As you said that, there's two things on there that I'm just like, yeah, I don't even want that right now.
So then you stop
Ah,
looking at it and then you don't do it.
punching
Right.
me.
So trust me, like I tried it. So I feel like it's that intentional time, because also I think lots of times what will fill me up now doesn't fill me up forever. So when I
Sure.
started my planner business, I was following what I wanted. I loved it. Launched this planner business, finally got it over the hump where things were going well. And then it was like, it just started to become a grind. And I think what happened is I stopped dreaming about what was next. And I think it's then you have to continue. But if I had been in the habit then of dreaming every single day, I would have been dreaming already what was next. And it took me, I feel like I was in this like year phase, which really isn't that long, but I feel like it was just a grind. I was thinking of selling it. And then it was like, I started dreaming again. And then it was, I want to start coaching people. And then relit the fire. And then hope that you start to learn these things. And it's okay, I'm going to launch a podcast. And right now I'm working on my next thing is writing a book. Like it's just, but
Nice.
having another dream that's filling me with excitement, because if you're not working towards a dream, you can have goals that aren't meaningful, and you can have
Yeah.
goals that you're accomplishing something, but is it filling that fire of this is what I want? Or is this just what I should do? Is this what somebody recommended? Right. You can take people's recommendations, but see if it's aligned.
I like that. Yeah.
Easy example. And you've got a podcast here, but like when I launched my e-commerce business, you get tons of advice, right? Like people are telling you, you got to do TikToks. Oh, you got to do blogs. You have to have an email list. You have to, and it's like people list out every potential option, right? Like you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And it's, all of those work, but which one do you want to do? Like for me, podcasting, I love doing it. And it's, I don't care to go write blog posts. No offense to blog posts, but that doesn't fill me up. So if I'm going to build a business, why don't I build the one that I actually want, rather than this person told me that TikToks are going to take off? Look, they probably will, but I would rather do something that I want. And I think there's just as much opportunity doing a podcast as there is TikToks. Why don't I do the one that I want?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's look, you're trying to reach a specific audience no matter what it is you're trying to do. There's so many avenues and ways to reach them. You don't have to do everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have TikTok and all the other social media stuff and everything, But personally, full disclosure here, I barely post on those things. It's usually somebody from my team posting clips of my
I'm the same way.
podcast.
It's my
and things
VA.
like that. Yeah.
They clip up my podcast and put
Yeah.
it on
Yeah.
there. And I don't know, it doesn't really do very good, but that's okay. At least now I can check
Look,
the box. It's
the
done.
way I
But
look at it is if I make a TikTok video or something that leads somebody to the podcast and it's one person and it helps one person out and changes their life, or they come and they listen to an episode like this one and they're like, man, I really like the stuff that Jason said. And I looked into his stuff and I did this and it changed my life. I got his planner. If I'm able to impact one person, I feel like I did a really good thing, right? I don't need to have, yes, I have thousands of people listening to this podcast every month. Um, I don't care. What I care about is, did I help somebody? Am I putting out value to my listeners, right? Is there somebody that can listen to this that this might help change their life in the future, right? That to me that's my definition of success, right? Is what have I done for someone else? So yeah. So I absolutely love that. I really appreciate where you're coming from there, Jason. And actually what I'd like to do now is, because there's, man, I feel like I could talk to you forever about this stuff because it's just so fun. Actually, no, I do want to ask you one more thing before we go into the final round. But so you said you do that well, not meditation, but you do that like
dreaming.
10 minutes of goal planning, like, or dreaming every day, every single day without.
Probably weekends. It doesn't happen.
Sure.
Sometimes, but if it did, it would be more of like when I'm in the car or on a walk. But during the week, I want it to be, it's not like when I'm mowing the lawn, which happens when you're mowing the lawn, right? Your mind is just thinking, but I want it to be undivided, just attention on dreaming.
Uninterrupted.
And it gets you excited. I think, like, I've gotten into meditating and visualizing, and I feel like this is lots of the same stuff. It's having your mind just explore what's fun. And I feel like it guides me on what I should be doing. I feel for me, dreams have just been the source. And
no, I like that. I'm asking Jason because so I meditate right now and I'm thinking, what if I cut my meditation time down and then just add like a 5 to 10 minute window where I just focus on my dreams and my goals. And I just take that time to sit there and just think about that. So I might add that to my daily routine.
Right.
That's why I wanted to ask you about that. Cause that just, the more I think about it, like when I get excited about something and I get fired up, right? Like you were talking about adding that fuel to keep that fire burning. An exercise like that, like it's a mind exercise, right? But that's what keeps everything fresh. I feel like is going to be the thing that's going to help me keep going and stay focused on my goals that I'm trying to accomplish. Especially after I write them in the planner when I get one from you.
And it helps you if you start to get derailed. Like if there's something that I'm almost trying to force myself to dream about, I need to listen to that, right? If it's like, oh, somebody told me I'm like, this would be exciting. And maybe it's exciting to dream about 1 or 2 days. And now it's like, I feel like I'm just forcing myself to dream about it. It's okay. What do I just wish I could do? Right. I don't know if sometimes I'll be talking to my wife and be like, I wish I could just do this. And that's what I'm supposed, I wish I could just say this in the podcast. And that's what I'm supposed to say. Or I wish I could just, and for some reason, the dreaming for me untaps that. And it can help me recognize like I'm getting derailed. I'm focusing on something that I don't actually want, and then do the soul searching, figure out what I do want.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. That's fantastic. Okay, man, like I said, I could talk to you about this stuff forever, but we are running out of time. So I want to transition this now into something that I call the final round. It's where I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions I ask everybody that comes on the show. It gives us a good idea of where you're at under a little bit of pressure. It's really not that bad. But if you're ready to go, we'll get that party started.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. You're a podcaster, man, so I'm not too worried about this. You're going to crush it. Anyway, so Jason, what is the biggest mistake you've ever made when it comes to your finances or business life?
To my finances or business life? So I think, and hopefully this answers your question here. When I first started getting into real estate, I think I wanted to avoid any problem that could come up, right? Like I got my rentals, just praying, I hope nothing goes wrong, right? Like I was literally I hope nothing goes wrong. And that was like what I was hoping for. And the opposite happens as with rentals. Crap happens, air conditioners break. I've had 3 times a tree fall on the roof of one of my rental properties, apartments flood, like they were all struck by lightning. Like it was like, okay, what am I doing wrong that my trees are getting struck by lightning? It's not like I'm irresponsible with dead trees sitting by the building. But this is what ended up happening is I think I was seeking out trying to avoid all problems when luckily nature just forced this mistake to stop. But rather than been giving a business with no problems, I was given something better as I actually learned to be a landlord, right? Like those problems are what taught me how to do this business. If I didn't have them, I wouldn't have been prepared to get to 34 units, right? I would never be able to walk through a property and analyze, like, this is how much money I need to put into it. This is what's going to need replaced. I think one of the big mistakes was really shying away from potential problems, where what I should have been doing is just learning how to handle them.
Sure. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, man. Open and honest. And it makes me think about my own real estate journey, because I feel like I went through something similar where I got to the point where I questioned, what am I doing wrong here? Why me? Why me? Because I bought my first property back in 2007, right? July of 2007. What happened the very next year? The real estate market crashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got out of real estate for a long time after that. Then November of 2019, I decided I want to get back into real estate. I buy a duplex. We close on it February of 2020. And what happened the next month? The world ended with COVID, right? So it's like, what is going on here? This is not meant to be for me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just sticking it through this time. And it's been great. But a lot of times you have to overcome some adversity, right? There's going to be obstacles that get in the way, and you have to have that drive and motivation to keep pushing past that. So I appreciate where you're coming from there. This next question, Jason, it ties into the first one. And that is, what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started out?
So I'm going to take us back to goal setting here. I think when I was originally starting my business, most of my goals and even dreams at that point were very ego driven. How can I make me look good? Like, I want this, like, weird example. I dreamed about for a while, I wanted a helicopter. And people knew this, that I wanted a helicopter. And it took me years to realize I actually don't want a helicopter. I just had this internal feeling like, oh, for some reason I'm not good enough. And if I had a helicopter, somehow that would prove that I was enough. But I had so many of these goals that were just ego seeking. How am I going to make me look good? How am I going to make my life look better? What am I going to do this year? And probably is, so my planner, you set these long-term goals, right? So one of these sections has a prompt like 3 years from now, my age will be, my life will look like. And 3 years after I launched my planner, I remember getting my planner back from 3 years prior and reading that section. And it was interesting because it's like, I remembered writing that section thinking, this is crazy. I have no idea how this is going to happen. But I could read it and know not only have I hit those things, but I've exceeded them. And as strange as it was, that realization made me almost like depressed for 6 months. It was almost like, okay, I thought if I would have created that life, I would just be happy. Right. And I wasn't. It's not like I just woke up every day and it's my life is fulfilled, right? Just whatever, everything's easy now. And in some ways, it took away a lot of motivation. It's like, what am I working hard to? If more money, more rental properties, more planner sales isn't going to make me happier, what am I doing all this for? And I feel like one of the things I realized that I wish I would have thought about in the very beginning, and we touched on earlier, was my goals aren't all about me. It shouldn't just be, what am I going to do? How am I going to make my life better? What are the habits I want to start this year? It's, how am I going to help others, right? What do I want to help others do this year? What habits am I going to help them start? How am I going to make their lives better? And one, when I started doing that, my business grew, right? When things weren't all about, how am I going to make me look good this year? How am I going to help others do good this year? Turns out they like that more, right? And my business grew, but I ended up being way happier. And I think like I was just on this race for years to try and prove I was enough. And it's no matter what, that voice can always be there. Like, I work with clients they've accomplished giant things, like way bigger than probably I'll ever do. And they have the same, if I could do this, I'd be able to show to my parents that I'm enough. And it's like, bro, you got a house in the Hamptons, right? Like, you've made it. Like, you're enough. But it's when you just stop worrying about, am I enough, and help somebody else become enough. Yeah, maybe that was deeper than you were trying to get there, but that was a mistake that I got stuck on for a little while.
It's good though. It's good because it also ties right into this next question I'm going to ask you. And that is, do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started out today? I think some of the stuff you just described really hits on a lot of that, but I'm curious if you have anything specifically that you think would be useful.
Okay. One, I'm going to tell you, first, start with the daily dreaming. Some of the things we've already talked about, seek mentors. But something else that my planner does, not that this will also be about my planner, but you can do this without your planner, is I create a scorecard for myself. So Well, I can show you my planner, but they won't be able to see it. It's like lots of times people think it's impossible to have your ideal life, right? When really all it comes down to is figuring out what does your ideal day look like, and then figure out how to create that every single day. So whenever I set a goal, I want to figure out what are the successful behaviors I need to do every day that are going to get me to that goal, right? Your successes come from your successful behaviors, or your unsuccessful behaviors, they're going to lead you to your failures. So when I set these goals, I come up with here are the successful behaviors I need to be doing every single day. And I like to make 10 of them. Maybe it's get up on my first alarm, dream for 10 minutes. I have different things throughout my day. And then every night I'll go through my scorecard and I literally give myself a score. Okay, here's the 10 things. I did 7 out of the 10. I had a 70% day. And it's just a really easy way to hold yourself accountable. I have my scorecard. It's called the habit card in the Goal Crazy Planner. And it's like, I know if I do those 10 things every day, I'm going to get to my goals, right? My successful behaviors will come from my successful behaviors will lead to my successes. So all I need to do is do them every single day. So I think for people listening to this, I would do some soul searching to figure out what do you want to do with your life, for one, but then figure out what are the successful behaviors you need to do every single day to get you there. And probably on the flip side of that, what are the unsuccessful behaviors you're doing right now that's moving you away from the goals? And you can similarly have that in your ideal day. Don't do this. And grade yourself every day, because you brought up life gets busy and it goes in fast forward. And it's like, if you're not reviewing it every day, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to stop doing this. And then a year will go by and it's led to all these other consequences. So look at it every day.
Procrastination. That really gets me sometimes, man. Procrastination can be rough. Okay. No, I love that. Okay. So Jason, final question of the final round. Are you ready for this one?
Let's do it.
All right, I'll preface this with besides your own, but do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast or both?
So probably the book that I love to recommend to people, and I think this book was really powerful for me. It was like one of the very first self-help books that I read. So I think it really changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways, but I've read it multiple times. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. And I think it's just a really powerful book. So I'm gonna recommend that one.
Okay, fantastic. I don't think I've read that one, so I'm gonna add that one to my list. Magic of Thinking Big. Okay, awesome. All right, Jason, thank you very much for that. Now, that is it for the final round. You survived. Pat yourself on the back. It wasn't
Thank
that
you.
bad like I made it sound like it was going to be. But now I have another question I want to ask you, and this is probably the most important question I'm going to ask you throughout this entire interview. I have listeners right now that listen to this entire episode, and they said, man, I need to get my stuff together, or I'm really interested in learning more about Jason's planner, or getting coached by him, or learning more about what I could do to be more productive and maybe start my own e-commerce business, or what can I do to get started in real estate in a similar fashion. And they're going to want to get that information from you. So with that said, where can people find more information about you? Do you have a website you could share with us? Any social media profiles we could follow? Are you doing any TikTok dances anywhere for us?
No TikTok dances. Sorry to let you down there, but my website's goalcrazy.com. So goal, like a soccer, goalcrazy.com. I have the Goal Crazy podcast. You can find it on that website or search wherever you stream the Goal Crazy podcast. And check out my planner. You can get it on my website. You can get it on Amazon. If you search Goal Crazy, it'll come up. And something unique that I'm doing this summer is I have this group coaching program, maybe you'd call it, that meets every single Monday morning for 35 minutes, where I help people fully plan out and time block their week. Take 35 minutes. It's 8 a.m. Eastern time, but it's free this summer if you have a planner. So if you buy a planner off my site, goalcrazy.com, you can get access to those calls completely for free. It's a Zoom call. You'll leave that 35-minute call with your entire week completely time blocked out. You know what you're going to do Monday morning, Tuesday afternoon. I'll even help you put what I call buffer time in there, so that if something new comes up or something takes longer than expected, it doesn't throw off your whole week. You can check out my stuff, and I'd love to see you on there. One, so I can get to actually connect with you, but I would love to help you with your time, because if you have no control of your time, then making your dreams happen will be close to impossible. But you need to have your dreams so you can know how to manage your time. So you need both. And I'd love to help you with both.
Awesome. So Jason, I really appreciate that. I'm going to make sure that we have those links in the show notes for our listeners to copy and paste or click away. But my listeners, the drill, if you're driving right now, please don't do it. Wait till you get to a safe place, or just take a mental note and come back to this later. But Jason, seriously, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to have this conversation with me and to share your story and your success with me and our audience here. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and I love what you're doing with this podcast. I know you're helping people, and this conversation helped me. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And also, I want to thank every single one of my listeners that are tuning in right now. Thank you all so very much for taking the time out of your day to sit here and join me and our special guest, Jason VanDevere, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you liked what you heard today, go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about my conversation today with Jason. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.